Hello guys and gals, me Mudahar, and I am 5 seconds away from actually having an aneurysm, because ladies and gentlemen, I've been on a rabbit hole search the entire night, and I think I might have found what is one of the wildest YouTube mysteries imaginable, one thing that has left me really confused, and frankly, it's taken me longer than an hour to even wrap my head around it, if I'm even close to that. Now, a month ago, I made a video titled, YouTube's copyright abusers, right? A new YouTube copyright abuser has entered the ring. We covered a channel known as Quantum TV. Now, Quantum TV made a video about Elden Ring, where he basically, bashed it, gave his opinion on it, and a video that really didn't receive much attention. I think it barely cracked 1,000 views at the time, because some YouTubers took it, like a good friend of mine named Actman, and basically critiqued and commented over it using fair use. He was actually struck down by Quantum TV. Now, Actman, in this case, obviously decided to fight back and challenge this copyright claim. And YouTube had jumped in and basically said, hey, we received a copyright infringement notification below regarding your video. We believe your content is protected by fair use, fair dealing, or a similar exception to copyright protection. Here they actually gave a YouTube URL for said video. That URL, which basically ends in STWCF4, led back to the worst Elden Ring hot take, proving that YouTube had stepped into the situation and said, hey, listen, Actman, we're on your side for this. Now, of course, when I look at a copyright tool that's being used and YouTube even has to step in and say, we think your video is protected by fair use, given the fact safe harbor provisions are something YouTube definitely strives to go for, this is a clear example of somebody who actually filed, in my opinion, a pretty malicious copyright strike. This would be a false copyright strike as far as I understand. But we're going to get to that in a little bit. Now, since then, Quantum TV has went from a relatively unknown TV calibrator in the TV calibration community to somebody that's pretty vilified. Now, to understand, let's get into why this video is made. Obviously, over the course of the month, me and Actman have talked too many times about the situation, more than we really should have. I remember sometime after we filmed the episode of Some Ordinary Podcast with him, and we all kind of laughed at the situation, but shortly after that, I was basically notified by him, and then reading on my Twitter feed, that Quantum TV had communicated with Actman's mother. Yes, by sifting through online information and trying to obtain all the private stuff that's out there, Quantum TV had actually called up Actman's mom. Now, of course, I don't have to remind you that this is crossing several fucking boundaries. It's actually very weird. Now, of course, Actman made a case for why, looking into the actual activities of Quantum TV over the last few years, his channel should have actually been removed from YouTube. Now, of course, I'm one of those people where I don't believe in deplatforming anybody. Of course, however, if you violate several TOS rules on the website, okay, at that point, of course, you are actually harming the platform, you should be removed. If you file false DMCA claims, if you don't know how to file proper copyright, and you are actually using it to stifle and shut down criticism, you should be removed from the platform, because filing false DMCAs doesn't just harm YouTubers, it harms every other creator regardless of platform. People who abuse copyright basically are putting out actual legal notices. And if these things are taken to court, alright, they could fundamentally change the way we view fair use, fair dealings, and whatnot. But of course, I'm getting way too ahead of myself. Let's start off with number one. Let's cover the actual definitions. Now, Quantum TV on his channel will oftentimes use terms like malicious. Of course, according to Merriam-Webster, malicious is having or showing a desire to cause harm to someone given to, marked by, or arising from malice. Now, when I think of malice, I can think of somebody like Quantum TV creating playlists to expose other YouTubers like HDTV Test, and sometimes YouTubers like Stop the FOMO. There are more videos on Quantum TV's channel that there are some people who are criticizing him for something that he is obviously doing wrong. Now, of course, when you look at malice, for instance, even if you look at Quantum TV's blog, which coincidentally, the #1 brand in honesty seems to absolutely be removing a lot of pages on their own blog, has not realized that things like the Wayback Machine existed. Way back when we first covered this, we actually laughed at one of the funniest posts that was ever made on this page. And thankfully, because of the Wayback Machine, we were able to get a pristine view of what this article looked like before the #1 brand in honesty decided to delete, I guess, a lie or truth or whatever. Of course, YouTubers stopped the FOMO under fire for Lucifer support. And of course, while these images are blurred, I definitely have an archive from my earlier video where the entire premise was because this one YouTuber used the introduction stinger for the Netflix show Lucifer just to do an HDTV bloom test. Quantum TV believed this was some way to subliminally push Satanism onto the market. What a weird, malicious way to discredit another YouTube competitor. Anything to get into the search engine anything to get into the search rankings, anything to discredit, I guess, right? It seems very malicious that this is happening. Honestly, I don't even want to just hit upon this hypocrisy note. I'll leave it right where it's at. Because frankly, let's cover the idea of copyright. To be honest with you, Quantum TV seems like he has a very weird idea of what copyright is and honestly, what copyright abuse really is. So let's go from YouTube's terms right here. To file a copyright takedown request on YouTube, there is a form right here, very easily accessible. However, YouTube will tell you, do not make false claims. Misuse of the takedown web form, such as submitting false information, may result in the suspension of your account and other legal consequences. I have no idea why, in the previous video that Actman finally got reinstated, the Elden Ring hot take analysis, that wasn't a false claim enough for YouTube to consider suspending Quantum TV's channels or having some legal consequence against him. Even if you go into this form, one of the actual checkboxes says, the information in this notification is accurate and under penalty of perjury. I am the owner or an agent authorized to act on behalf of the owner of an exclusive right that is allegedly infringed. So anyways, let's get back to the US copyright notice. At copyright.gov, one can easily look into what copyright law exists. And in a quick understanding, copyright is basically established right here. A work is created when it is fixed in a copy or phonorecord for the first time. Where a work is prepared over a period of time, the portion of it has been fixed at a particular time constitutes the work as of that time. And where the work has been prepared in different versions, each version constitutes a separate work. I guess it's kind of like when you load up a video game and you can see the introduction legal stinger, you can actually see the copyright date, which is usually the year of the game's release. And of course, any further re-release of that same video game title will oftentimes show a range, right? Like if a game was released in 2018 and then re-released in 2025, you might see a copyright date of copyrighted between 2028-2025. And of course, the number will increase, the range will widen as the game's re-release. Now, of course, just because copyright is established doesn't mean that that copyrighted work cannot be taken and transformed into an actual, different video by using fair use guidelines. Fair use comes in 4 different factors. There are 4 factors that contribute to it. In order to ensure your work is fair use, there are 4 factors here, such as the purpose and character of the use, the nature of the copyrighted work, and the amount of substantiality of the portion used, the effect of the use on the potential market for or value of the work. Now, of course, these factors, every time you create a work that requires fair use guidelines, it's up to you to make sure that you are well within right of fair use using these 4 various factors. Now, of course, there have been case law, there have been studies by universities and other legal departments, depending on how much this stuff has been tested, what has happened, but realistically, nobody knows any outcome of a fair use case unless you go to a court of law, actually test it via being in a litigation, and then you'll come across the truth whether your work was actually fair use or not. Nobody tends to go up to the actual courtrooms because, let's say a work is fair use, right? Well, there is some precedent these days, such as the H3 Matt Haas case, where a lot of people oftentimes use a lot of their own work and intertwine that with the other pieces of somebody else's work in the form of critique and commentary. Of course, you're going to have to go to a court of law to get this tested. And until then, nobody really knows the real proper definitive answer. But let's move on. Now, when you go back to the idea of copyright abuse, one of the things that actually happened was the Actman video that was supposed to be removed got reinstated by YouTube, at least proving that when it came to copyright, it seems as though Actman's video was definitely in the right, and whoever filed the first initial copyright claim seemed to be a false copyright claim to begin with. It wasn't filed in the right intentions. It wasn't right. It wasn't violating fair use in the first place to begin with. Now again, YouTube's idea of jumping into fair use and whatnot is already pretty risky to an extent. YouTube has gotten better when it comes to dealing with copyright strikes and false copyright strikes in general. but it's not perfect. And to understand why YouTube has a very hands-off approach regarding any form of copyright abuse even, and why it still angers us, is because of YouTube's DMCA safe harbor provision. So here it is. Section 512C of the DMCA provides that a service provider, as defined in the Copyright Act, is not liable for claims of copyright infringement relating to content provided by users as long as it does not have actual knowledge that the material or an activity using the material on the system or network is infringing, and in the absence of such actual knowledge is not aware of facts or circumstances from which infringing activity is apparent. A service provider must also comply with several DMCA requirements, such as registering a designated agent to receive takedown requests in order to qualify for safe harbor. Basically, safe harbor in this case allows that YouTube can basically just serve as a video hosting platform, and that if copyrighted material does get hosted, YouTube will receive a DMCA takedown and just immediately remove it right there and then. And they basically have to do this in order to protect the safe harbor provision that they have. Without safe harbor, YouTube is not a possibility at all. And that's the same thing to be said for basically any other platform where user-generated content is the bread and butter. Relying on the legislative history of the DMCA and case law, the court explained that to let knowledge of a generalized practice of infringement in the industry over a proclivity of users to post infringing material impose responsibility on service providers to discover which of their users posting infringe a copyright would contravene the structure and operation of the DMCA. The DMCA notification procedure places the burden of policing copyright infringement, identifying the potentially infringing material and adequately documenting infringement squarely on the owners of the copyright. We decline to shift a substantial burden from the copyright owner to the provider. Now, of course, the entire idea of copyright is basically up into the arms and debates for many people, right? And the only way you're really going to test this is in a court of law. YouTube, in its correspondence, will not try to give you actual legal advice. If this is to actually be tested, it needs to actually hit a court of law. People need to be sued over this. Now, of course, where things really start to change is after this whole copyright dilemma, the actual character of Quantum TV was basically assessed. And Quantum TV, effectively, people have started looking into his past, people have started looking into his various blogs on multiple websites, and have come across some rather unsavory posts. And because of YouTube's guidelines on external links, basically, if you have a YouTube channel and you link to stuff where a lot of, weird content is hosted, a lot of content that may be pornographic, content that may be hateful, content that may be bigoted, would be enough for you to receive community guideline strikes. Get 3 of these and your channel's basically put under a guillotine, if you will. And once your channel is eliminated and removed from YouTube, creating another channel would be constituted as ban evading. Creating multiple channels would constantly have you removed. Ban evading is a no-no on YouTube. For instance, characters like Leafy that have had their basic channels completely terminated cannot create a new channel and come back to the platform at all under YouTube's ban evasion policies. A good example can be EDP445, a character once banned off YouTube for incredibly serious stuff. Now, of course, this might be one of the, 15, 20 channels at this point that have been cropping up. And for instance, this has about 5,000 subscribers. I'm going to wager that before it ever gets to 6,000, 10,000 subscribers, this channel will probably be detected by YouTube's algorithm and manual reviewer and be removed for a user that's clearly ban evading. Now, of course, what kind of posts was Quantum TV allegedly making? I use allegedly because I, myself, have not been able to actually refresh servers on Facebook, YouTube, Twitter to actually read these for myself. I have a pretty heavy policy when it comes to reading these posts that I don't tend to believe them, or there is a chance, however minimal it may be, that these posts may be doctored if I can't actually refresh them from a server on that specific platform. I keep this policy just because there are always chances things can be doctored. But of course, there were some things being shared around pretty quickly, so let's go into them. One of the examples that was floating around over here, one that was read on the podcast and several other channels, was this big giant Discord post here from Quantum TV's alleged Discord account.
I just want to thank everyone for sticking with me. Yes. It's obvious most of these other reviewers like Stop the FOMO, Digital Trend, and HDTV test are just Satanists in disguise. Every time I've seen one of their videos, you can tell that they are trying to brainwash the masses into their gay, liberal, satanic atheist agenda. 1 minute someone could be watching Stop the FOMO, and the next minute they start having anal sex with their father, doing coke and trying to conjure demons with satanic rituals.
Now, of course, I would love to hear Quantum TV's explanation on this. Is this text message fake? Was this doctored? Because frankly, I've seen this float around a lot on numerous posts, right? Now, there are other posts from Quantum TV's now defunct Twitter account where it was, you have LGBT kissing in church, but we're bigots for rejecting this hateful content? Why weren't you a victim? Where he actually references being a victim in the second largest, deadliest mass shooting in the United States. The world would be a better place without you. You know, it's Pride Month this month, and you know when companies just change their fucking flag to some rainbow stuff, and they constantly let people like this still on the platform, honestly baffles me. But hey, that's under the stipulation that this is a real tweet. From what I heard, Quantum TV likes to claim that this was a hack that occurred. Now, I like to believe that if a hack occurs on your channel, then, for instance, let's just go through a little scenario. Okay, let's say that my Twitter account gets hacked. Now, 690,000 people follow me on Twitter. Imagine if somebody hacked me, and all of a sudden they started posting some vehemently racist shit on my Twitter account. Now, again, there's going to be two scenarios, right? Once I get access back into my Twitter account, do I, A, keep those posts as sort of a, memory to a different time on my page? Or do I delete those posts immediately? I would delete those posts. You would think that if you were hacked and you got your channel back or your account back, you would start deleting those posts. Why were they up there for that long until everyone started finding them once you started gaining traction because of the Streisand effect of you hitting other channels with copyright strikes? I don't know. There's got to be some explanation. Now, while Actman made a very good video yesterday, I wanted to really sit down and started proving some connections from the #1 brand in honesty. Now, if you go to Quantum TV's page right now, you'll notice that this channel right here, if you refresh it, you can actually go to the About section, and in the description for it, you'll start to notice there's only one link to the Discord community forum right here. Now, the reason why this is so important to me is when you actually use the Wayback Machine, which stores a historical record of basically a page at a certain point in time. Let's actually understand and see what's different. Right here, you can actually see back in March 17, 2022, the Master TV Calibrator, AV Journalist, Tech Reviewer. Okay, it seems like that's pretty much there. Quantum TV provides brutally honest expert assessments of products. But if you look down at those links, you can see the Discord community forum. But all of a sudden, you've got a Facebook contact, a Twitter contact, and the official QTV website. Why is it that right now you've managed to remove that? Is it potentially due to the fact that maybe those specific links may contain some things you don't want to be seen? Now, there's a simple thing a lot of you can do when you want to actually see where these pages go to. For instance, if you click on the Facebook contact real quick, you'll notice that as I highlight the page, in the bottom, there's this really long string of, there's this really long URL, right? It's a redirect. But if you look at the very end of that, you'll notice that it goes to a Facebook account, Quantum TV Blog. So it's a simple matter of fact, okay? We're going to open up the page here, go to facebook.com/Quantum TV Blog. Now, if we hit enter over here, you'll notice that, hey, that page isn't actually available. What? Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you, this page seems to actually be shut down or privated. Because if you go to the URL here real quick and you just fuddle around with it, you'll notice that the actual page is a bit different here. It'll tell you it isn't available if the URL doesn't make sense. But here it straight up says it's usually because the owner only shared it with a small group of people, changed who can see it, privated it, or it's been deleted. So why is it that all of a sudden this guy's Facebook contact magically got deleted? You might be like, wait, Muda, what if it was always private? No. See, by using the Wayback Machine on the same URL, you can see that back in the year 2020, this was an actual active page. Excuse the difference in language, that's just the language that it was Wayback Machined in. As you can see, the Quantum TV blog links back to that exact YouTube channel we were looking at. You can highlight that link and you can see right at the bottom, youtube.com/channel UCOCH 5WUE. This is a specific URL identifier for each and every YouTube channel. If you actually highlight that real quick, copy that, and then basically put it into our URL tab, enter it, you will find out you are back to the #1 brand in fucking honesty. So why is it that Quantum TV has removed that Facebook account? Why does it seem that way? Well, let's see what could have been uploaded to that Facebook account, allegedly, might I add. More videos this week. Still more heterophobic individuals show themselves today. I say spread the word. Quantum Apotheosis is anti-gay. I'm not sorry. Going forward, I will continue saying things just like this. I hope to get rid of all the scumbags demanding my submission to liberal ideals. Okay, so here you got one right here, getting a little political for sure. You can see that Quantum TV blog on Facebook has claimed, all right, according to this screenshot, if it's true, I have been terminated for free speech. I was already on a 2-week ban, but they decided to delete the channel anyways. So now this takes us to the next stage. Was this person deleted? Now, you may have noticed just before we go into it that Quantum TV's website was actually even removed from basically just his about section on his YouTube channel. And of course, when you look at YouTube's policy on external links, one of the most important little policies that they have is misinformation. In fact, they have a specific section just for things like election misinformation policies, where basically spreading misinformation about any past US presidential election is enough to get your channel given a strike. YouTube will straight up tell you these policies also apply to external links. And external links are links to pornography, websites that fish for login credentials, websites that seek to raise funds for bad organizations, link to websites that spread misleading or deceptive content that can cause serious risk of egregious harm, such as interfering with democratic processes. Now, of course, when you go to Quantum TV's page, because he's the #1 brand in honesty, this page will absolutely remove all the posts they used to have. So where were these posts? Well, by using the Wayback Machine, which again creates historical record of pages at some point in time. Now, while I would love to put that in this video, the unfortunate reality is I don't want to give Quantum TV sort of a reason to copyright strike the video, but also because posting any of this information is very, very, very sensitive for YouTube's guidelines. And I really don't want to trigger anything to have this video removed and then go through the entire headache of, just bringing it back up, bringing up to a partner representative. Realistically, you yourself can use the Wayback Machine and uncover the truth for yourself. In fact, I highly advise you do it, as that's how you fact check people on the internet, me, anybody else in general. Look it up for yourself as well. Make sure that I'm not fooling you around and get the whole picture for yourself. Let's get back to the video. Now, here's Quantum TV's page once again. Let's start the rabbit hole together, okay? Now, on this page over here with Quantum TV, we're basically witnessing the #1 brand in honesty as it's witnessed today. Now, one thing to understand before we continue down this rabbit hole is a difference, okay? This URL you're seeing here with a string of characters at the end is basically a unique URL given to every single channel out there. Now, of course, if you go to Quantum TV's own channel as of now, you'll notice that he has a custom URL. So basically, you've got Quantum TV blog. Now, of course, this is the #1 brand in honesty as we witness it at time of filming. So let's use the Wayback Machine and start looking back in time just a little bit. Now, if we actually take that same identifier right here, okay, basically the unique identifier for Quantum TV's channel right now, you'll notice that it basically takes us to the exact spot. By using this URL, we're going to go to the Wayback Machine and just see how things used to look back in the day. So again, on November 11, 2020, okay, you can start to see that Quantum TV had 36,000 subscribers. But they had a second community, Next Gen Gaming. Yo, welcome to Next Gen Gaming. If you love video games, this is the place for you. Okay, all right, so let's go back just a little bit further into it. In fact, if you go all the way to July 13, 2020, okay, just a few months back in this case, when Quantum TV had less subscribers, you can start to see that channel was Quantum Rising. Welcome to the official gaming of Quantum TV. QR is about having fun. PC benchmarking. Well, that's a weird rebrand again. The profile picture is the exact same. Again, if you go even further back into it, you can see that that channel in 2019 was Quantum Realm, where they were calling out 4K clown scaler and all there was drama back then in the TV community. Now, this page is in Russian, but that is related channels. And you can see that at the time, one channel's name was Quantum Apotheosis. Now, of course, ladies and gentlemen, Quantum Apotheosis shares the URL youtube.com/channel UCOCH5WUE. Okay, so basically HVQ. It ends in HVQ. If we go back to the Wayback Machine, you can actually see that the link is the same one that we saw in the Quantum TV blog, all right? Now, of course, it's also kind of sussy-wussy, all right, really sussy-wussy, that when we actually look back earlier into this video, when it came to Quantum TV talking about a second week ban, what channel was actually terminated? Was there a channel terminated? Let's go further in. One thing to also consider is there's a significant amount of channel rebranding that's going on, and the story is definitely very vague when you look at some of those Facebook screenshots earlier. There were channels apparently being terminated, but then when you look at some of these channels who are apparently going private or hiding themselves, maybe to warrant hiding out or running out certain strikes, because as you know, when you get a strike on YouTube, you can actually run it out after a period of like 3 months at this point, 90 days, and basically get back to good standing, right? You'll always have a warning if you've ever gotten that, but usually if you have 2 strikes, you can sort of cull your channel back, maybe private every video, private the channel, and then just wait the 3 months before, you get a 3rd strike, and then you're basically on the chopping block. The rebranding is definitely interesting. It's something that I've seen with channels that typically would be ban evading in my personal experience. I'm not saying that's what's happening over here, but there's a weird amount of rebranding and a constant amount of rebranding for certain specific channels within this umbrella that lead me to be more suspicious than I usually would. Now, somewhere down the road, there was a few YouTube accounts, other YouTube TV tech channels that basically were shouting out Quantum Apotheosis. Now, this is a video back from 2018. 2018 was when a lot of things happened. Now, of course, in this section, they actually link a specific channel with a unique identifier. Clicking this channel will take you to Next Gen Gamers. Now, of course, Next Gen Gamers, if you look very carefully right here, you can see that in this little section, they actually are referencing a specific gamer tag. That gamer tag, ladies and gentlemen, up close is Chemical XJ9. So clearly, it seems as though this channel is also clearly under that same umbrella. Now, inside this person's shoutout video, if you look up real quickly, it's pretty hard to tell, but you can see the YouTube URL right here is UCD and ends in something known as SILYA, right? Roughly. What's really kind of important as well here to note is even though that this URL does belong to Next Gen Gamers, it's also interesting to note that this was Quantum Apotheosis as well at some point. And it does appear to be in that same channel umbrella. So again, that URL that we're seeing is a unique ID identifier. What if we take that same URL and go back to Wayback Machine and see just earlier points of this channel's history at any other point during YouTube? And it actually gets quite interesting. So let's go check it out. Inside Wayback Machine, youtube.com/channel UCDJWEAF SLIYA, again, that same URL, you can see on April 21st, 2022, an actual archive exists where it says the account has been terminated for violating YouTube's community guidelines. Now, what's weird to me is if now you take that same URL and you just throw it in back, it'll take you to an actual channel that was founded in 2013. As far as I know, all right, these unique IDs cannot just be given to new channels. They're basically there to signify a channel's existence, whether it's been banned or not. So what's wild to me is it seems as if this account is banned. Now, I don't know if I've somehow proven that Quantum TV was unbanned, because once you're banned, you can file an appeal to get your channel back. And I'm going to assume that if Quantum TV was initially banned and actually appealed to YouTube and got unbanned, then this would be the one key defense, the silver bullet against Actman and every single party involved. I may have unironically made a case for Quantum TV. But the fact that Quantum TV has not been screaming this from the high heavens and rather has been deflecting to other weaker points maybe tells me that this account might not have been unbanned. This is actually the first time I'm ever seeing this on YouTube. It's actually kind of wilding me out, and I can't wait to hit up some of the engineers later tomorrow to get a further idea of what's actually going on. This is truly weird from an actual back-end perspective. Was this channel banned or was it not? Why does that weird archive exist? What's going on? Are we all being punked? Who knows? Now, there's been weird discourse even from back in the days of 2018, 2019, when people on forum posts were actually, commenting. By the way, the creator of the video, Quantum Apotheosis, guy who has been banned from YouTube twice, the same hilarious clown who are known to constantly attacking professionals in the industry and putting feet in his mouth. I would suggest somebody stay as far away from this channel as possible. Seems rather weird that these kind of posts have been made. Of course, even 2 months ago, somebody was saying his original channel, Quantum Apotheosis, was completely removed from YouTube because they posted a subscriber-suggested video about attacking homosexuals in the streets for showing PDA. He went on to accuse HDTV Tests and Artings conspiring against him for being the only true calibrator on YouTube. Even when you look at the idea of calibrations, one of the grifts that is run by Quantum TV is basically getting people into a private-only members club. Basically, by going to his YouTube channel, he wants you to join in, where you get exclusive, member-only settings for a television. Now again, I'm just going to say for the record, as somebody that has worked in the media business, when you're doing TV calibrations, it's not something that you can sign up to a YouTube channel for. I've seen Actman say this is kind of scammy or scummy, and a few people who were talking and interviewed with in the TV community. For me, I think it's more deceptive. When you actually are calibrating televisions, you actually have to be there and calibrate it as attuned to the lighting environment in your area and generally the TV panel you may specifically have. Not all TV panels are the same. It's why people who are doing actual TV calibrations are paid hundreds of dollars to come over and calibrate your specific television. They look at the area around you and basically do it, in a very professional, proper way using specialized equipment and specialized training. Training that you get certification from ISF. All right, you get certification training from this company to become a specific. Effectively, you have to go here to get certification in calibration. I'm not saying you can't calibrate a TV on your own. I'm just saying the way that Quantum TV runs the grift is a little bit questionable. But look, I think at the end of the day, one of the questions that I wanted to sort of ask myself was, first off, was this person banned? Now, of course, there's plenty of things that you could ban Quantum TV on based on some of those screenshots that are floating around of that Facebook blog and whatnot. This is a whole rabbit hole that I had to go down into. But again, based on my experiences, unless I can actually pull up anything and refresh it for myself, I tend not to believe screenshots. I think the biggest question to ask is, was this person actually banned? Because from what these archives are showing, clearly there was a YouTube channel banned. Clearly there was a Facebook post saying that, hey, a channel was banned. YouTube has removed me. If YouTube has removed you, why is it that all of a sudden that old channel from 2013 is still active in some capacity? What's really the truth behind the situation? Is this some YouTube mystery that needs to be cracked? Absolutely so. But going into the idea of ban evasion, for me, it seems very sketchy that the #1 brand in honesty over the last 2 months has been just all about deleting prior posts and whatnot. What happened to standing by those beliefs? What happened to believing you were in the right? Why is it that somebody in this situation is going on such a spree to delete stuff from being actively archived and cataloged? Is it potentially to throw off investigations from YouTube? Is it potentially to basically clear as much of the past as you can? Because it seems as though Quantum TV believes that as long as you delete something off the internet, it's like it never happened. The idea that YouTube was somehow favoring, Quantum TV, or YouTube's decision proved that it was absolutely 100% true is a little bit questionable as well. I have to question YouTube's actual investigation into the matter at hand. It seems though YouTube did not, in my opinion, investigate deep and fast enough into this situation as they thoroughly should have. Because if we were going by just the Wayback Machine metrics, YouTube should actually have an explanation as to why a channel is reported as being banned by the community guidelines at some point and then suddenly reinstated. Hey, listen, if Quantum TV, if you actually filed an appeal on your banned channel and you actually had it succeed, please provide us some form of email that says from YouTube that they have reinstated your banned channel. If you can do that, you fucking win against everyone. Actman, me, whoever basically questioned you is actually a dumbass if you can produce that evidence. Because if you can't, we have now discovered a YouTube rabbit hole that needs a goddamn answering for. Ladies and gentlemen, this is just one final video on an example of somebody that frankly was quite unknown in the entire situation. They made one hot take and people, laughed at it, goofed on it, and whatever. And because they jumped into the magical world of false copyright strikes and abuse, in my opinion, it basically triggered the ultimate Streisand effect. So I'm going to end this video off with just mystery. What actually happened? What was the ban about? And ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and if you like what you saw, please like, comment, and subscribe. Dislike if you dislike it. And of course, like in the beginning of this video, please do not harass or dox or look up anything on a person. Do not stoop to the levels that Quantum TV had to. Be a mature person. Look at this as a weird internet rabbit hole mystery, because that's really what it is. And at the end of the day, you know, move on with your day. That's pretty much where I'm going to leave it at. I hope the best for everyone involved. But that said, ladies and gentlemen, this is me, Mutahar, and I hope YouTube makes the right decision going forward. Because if we allow copyright abusers to thrive on this platform, it's not YouTube that only pays the price. It's every content creator on the platform. This is me, Mutahar, and I am